Welcome to Read Aloud. The story today was chosen by Andrew Frazee, and this is in honor of his birthday. He chose something from Tales of Laughter, and the title of this story is called Elizabeth, the Cow Ghost. In a town in Switzerland, there lived a man named Paul, who had a calf named Elizabeth. Elizabeth was a cream-colored calf, and everybody who saw her would say, "What a gentle calf! What dreamy eyes!" And when she grew older into a big, cream-colored cow, everybody who saw her would say, "Such a gentle cow! And what dreamy eyes!" And when she grew very old into an aged, cream-colored cow, everybody who saw her would say, "What a gentle old cow, and what beautiful, dreamy old eyes." Until Elizabeth grew tired of being called so gentle and became quite angry. After a while, she grew awfully old and was ready to die. But just before she died, she heard Paul say, "Isn't it a shame? She is such a gentle cow with such dreamy eyes." This made Elizabeth so mad that she decided to come back in the form of a ghost after she died to show everybody how fierce she really was. She died the next morning, and Paul felt awfully sad. He was so sad that he almost forgot his birthday, which was only 3 days off. Suddenly, Paul had an idea. "I shall have a big birthday party," he said, "and invite all my friends and have a big celebration." He hoped this way to forget Elizabeth, who made him feel so sad. That night, Paul sat up very late thinking about his party. Suddenly, he heard a strange noise in the dining room. He ran downstairs and found the ghost of a cow floating over the dining room table. Then he heard the ghost speak. It said, "I am the ghost of a fierce cow. I shall come and haunt you and scare you every night." But Paul looked at it carefully and said, "Oh, cow ghost, I can see by your gentle look that you are the ghost of poor Elizabeth, the most gentle cow that ever lived." At this, it was so mad that it floated very fast out of the window, mooing loudly. The next morning, Paul went to see his friends Yvonne, Jacques, and Claude in a nearby village. He asked them to his party, which was now only 2 days away. They all said they would come, so he went home, and soon it was night. That night, at the same time as the night before, he heard a strange noise in the living room. He ran downstairs and found the ghost of a cow with a big hood over its head and a great spear on its tail. It was floating over the mantelpiece. It said, "I am the ghost of the fiercest cow that ever existed. I shall haunt you and scare you day and night." But Paul looked at it carefully and said, "I can see by your cream-colored body that you are the ghost of poor Elizabeth, the most gentle cow I have ever known." At this, it was so angry that it floated with great speed through a crack in the wall and disappeared, mooing and sobbing very sadly. The next day, Paul went to a town which was many miles away. There he saw his friends, Pierre, Suzanne, and Jean, and invited them to his party, which was to be the next day. He then returned home, arriving late at night. When he entered the house, he heard strange noises in the kitchen, so he ran in and found the ghost of a cow. It was all covered with sheets, except for little holes for its eyes to see through, and it was floating over the kitchen stove. Then he heard the ghost speak. It said, "I am the ghost of a cow so fierce that even as a calf I was feared for miles around." But Paul looked at it with great care and said, "I see by your dreamy eyes that you are the ghost of poor Elizabeth, the most gentle, most kind and playful cow that ever grazed in Switzerland." At this, it snorted, mooed loudly, sobbed sadly, and disappeared through a very small hole down the sink. The next day, there was a big party, and Yvonne, Claude, Pierre, Jacques, Suzanne, and Jean were all there. Everybody had a wonderful time until late at night, when suddenly there was a strange noise in the kitchen, and then it moved to the living room, and in the living room there were grunts, snorts, and moo sounds. Claude was puzzled. Suzanne was frightened. Pierre was worried. Yvonne was curious. Jacques was startled. Jean was afraid. But Paul was all these things, and also awfully angry because it was his birthday party. And then an extraordinary-looking ghost entered. It was all covered with sheets, with a hood over its eyes and a spear on its tail, and it snorted very loudly. "I am the ghost of a cow, famous for fierceness and cruelty. I shall haunt and scare you all every moment of your lives." At this, everybody was so scared that they all ran away in all directions, yelling and screaming. They all went home feeling very frightened. Paul was afraid to go home because he was afraid of this terrifying ghost. He finally walked up to the house, peeked in one window, and then in all the other windows, and seeing no ghost, he went in and cautiously went to bed. He was just going to sleep when he heard a soft mooing downstairs. At this, he was furious, so furious that he grabbed a big stick and decided to beat up whatever he met. He ran downstairs, threw open the door, put on the lights, and yelled in his deepest voice, "Who goes there?" But there before him was floating the ghost of the good cow, Elizabeth. Then he heard the ghost speak. It said, "It was I who scared you tonight, Paul." "Did I really scare you?" "Yes," said Paul. "Did I really scare you?" said Elizabeth. "You certainly did," said Paul. "Then I am awfully sorry," said Elizabeth, "and I shall never do it again. Never, never again." And before Paul could say a thing, it floated out of the window and disappeared into the night. And this was because Elizabeth was really a very gentle cow with very dreamy eyes. Happy birthday, Andrew.